everyone, it's Nikki from FAC, and I'm so excited for our very first video of what we're lovingly calling the FAC Sheltered in Place Survival Tips. So tip number one, eyebrows. Now this is what I have been getting the most texts and questions about, is how people are going to maintain their own eyebrows. Well, don't worry, I got you. We're going to go over different ways that you can maintain your brows, trimming, shaping, filling them in. So first, let's talk about what kind of tools you're going to need for this. So first tool, scissors, little short ones. You can have curved ones too. A spoolie for brushing out your brows, and tweezers. I like these little short guys. They usually have, I have the best luck with those, finding ones that aren't too dull. And then your finishing products. So I've got brow gel, pencil, powder. So we're going to go over all the different ways that you can fill in your brows as well. And if you don't have any of these tools, we have them all for purchase as well. So you can call the Rancho Santa Margarita office and we can ship them out to you, or you can do curbside pickup or delivery. So first, let's talk about placement of the brows, because that's the most important. Now, obviously, nature kind of determines how much brows we naturally have, and maybe we've messed with that a little bit by over tweezing in the 90s. You all know what I mean. Unfortunately, I used to pull out any hairs that would grow funny. So my brows used to be about 2 inches apart when I was like in middle school. So thankfully those grew back, but fear not, you can trim them if they grow kind of wild and crazy. So to me, trimming is the most important step. And you can trim in different ways. You can make them feathered. They don't have to be really structured. I personally prefer a more structured look because my eyebrows, like most people's, don't grow symmetrically. This side kind of grows nice and over, and this side kind of grows like this, pointing at the other one. So it's much easier for me to keep symmetry by kind of trimming them both in a more structured manner. So I'll kind of show you first on my more feathered brow how you would trim that. So you want to have your spoolie, and you always want to hold the spoolie in the angle that your arch actually grows. So not, parallel to the ground, but your arch here. So I'm going to hold the spoolie and kind of brush up. You can see that extra length that I have there. Now, if your brows kind of lay over nicely, you don't have to trim off too much length because we don't want them seeming like they're too thin either. So if I was just trimming this top little bit, kind of hold it in the angle and then brush up, and then you can just trim this extra little tiny bit that's poking up there. I always say, you can always cut more off. You can't put it back on. So when in doubt, just cut less and then kind of brush them out and see how they're laying. So not too much off the front. And if you get these little, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but I have these hairs that grow in towards the middle. When we do the more structured trimming, I'll show you how I do that. And then on the ends, you really don't want to trim much length off. So I'm really just going to get these few hairs that stick off from the end. And if you do have brows that grow downward, like a lot of us do, you can always brush down and kind of hold it there and just grab those little hairs that are poking down, but you never want to trim too much off of on the underside of the brow because that can make them look really choppy. So if we were doing that, you would just kind of cut those little bit that are hanging there. So I can still keep kind of a feathered look on the front and then lay the rest down. But since I like a more structured look, I'm going to trim just a tiny bit more off of that. So again, holding in the angle and just those few that stick up. And then I kind of freestyle on the inside. So I'm going to line up right here and trim. So where you want your brows to kind of start is where your nostril meets the tip of your nose and then come straight up. And not everybody's brows grow in that close. Mine will grow together if I let them. So I can kind of bring it up to that point. But even if you've got only like a few hairs you know, on the inside, I would keep them, even if it's kind of lightly feathered in, because it does frame the eyes better. And then as far as for where the brow ends, you're going to be lining up kind of where your nostril is down here through the corner of your eye up to the end. And then the arch is really where it's going to be naturally. But if you're accentuating that, when you're looking straight ahead, it typically hits right outside where your iris is. Or if you're unsure where that is, I find if you raise up your eyebrows, you know, for all of us whose Botox is wearing off, it's getting a little easier. It's usually right from the peak is where you can pull. Or you can furrow your brows together and then you'll see where the highest point is. So that's going to be your natural peak, because it's nice to want and dream that you have someone else's eyebrows, but really what you have naturally tends to be what looks best on you for your bone structure, framing your face, for your eyes. So we've trimmed up this side, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, holding my brush in the angle of the arch. And we're just going to trim off this little excess here. Now, I always get questions about the way I hold my scissors. So I kind of hold between my thumb and middle finger, because that allows me to flatten the blade of the scissor against my skin. So it's much easier than me trying to like hold it in place and wobbling around. But you can hold your scissors however you like. And then just a little bit off of the edge. So not too much growing up there. And this isn't just for the ladies. Trimming for the brows for men makes a huge difference. Sometimes that's really all you need. And you can see, even though I cut more off, my brows actually look fuller than they did before, because now they're kind of laying in the right spot. And I'm just going to trim a little bit more off this front just to level it out. All right, so once you've had your brows trimmed, then you can go in and kind of clean up. So I try to keep the brows as full as possible. I really think that that's the best look for most people. Whatever you got naturally, just kind of keep it as full as possible. So when I'm tweezing, I'm really just cleaning up the hairs that kind of stick out from the line here. So you can use like a pointed tweezer like these, or more slanted, you know, if you don't trust yourself. I think the slanted ones work just fine. So when I'm going in to clean up, you can see when I brush the hair up, we kind of want everything going in a straight line through here. Straight line that's going along with your arch. So you can just kind of brush them up, see what's out of place. If you're growing in your brows or filling anything in, I suggest filling them in first and then tweezing afterwards to make sure that you're not pulling out something important, because I'm sure we've all ran into the problem where you over tweeze because you're really close, and then you back up and go, oh no. And then you have to keep chasing and redoing the other side. So if you need help, I would fill them in first. So just looking at whatever's growing in, you can pull out, you know, any little guys from the middle. And then underneath, got a few little guys. And I like to clean up the top just because I tend to be kind of a furry person in general. So feel free to kind of clean up the top, but again, keep that line here, and you can always brush down to see, you know, that your hairs line up. And just like with trimming, you know, you can't put it back. So if you're unsure, just leave it there and then take a step back and see how they're looking. So once we've tweezed, you can work on filling them in if you like, or if you want to keep them natural. The most natural way to kind of define the brows more would be with a little brow gel. So this is the Pure Brow Gel from Jane Iredale. And this is the blonde color, but they have brunette and auburn as well. So it's like mascara for your eyebrows. It helps kind of just grab the hair. So especially if you have hair that grows in lighter, like platinum blonde maybe. It's my nice way of saying gray hair. But this will grab a hold of it, and it's temporary, it washes off, but it'll give more definition to the brows too, cover up any lighter hair, just to create more continuity, and then it dries kind of firm, so it'll hold the shape better too. So we'll show you just like when you get a new mascara, I like to kind of scrape back the excess into the tube because it can get pretty goopy. So if we were just doing the brow gel, I would start kind of at the end and then brush against the way the hair grows. So that way you're grabbing every hair kind of like from root to tip without smushing it on your skin. So this isn't really filling in gaps. This is just if you have, you know, enough hair or you want to accentuate it more, especially if you have blonde or lighter hair. So I'm just going to kind of brush against, and you can see it's grabbing all those little hairs, and then I can kind of lay them down. And it's okay if a little bit gets on your skin because you can, you know, go back in and clean it up with your finger or a little Q-tip. But you can see, and if you like a feathered look, you can kind of brush the hair up there. But just doing that alone gives the eyebrow so much more definition. You can see more of the height on the arch, and then kind of keeps them in place. If I were filling in gaps or if I had, you know, areas that didn't grow hair, you would definitely want to use either a powder or pencil to start. And I like to do that before I do the brow gel. So just to show you, I'm going to use the little retractable brow pencil from Jane Iredale. I love this one because it's super small. You can see here. It's like a really thin pencil tip, so you can draw hair strokes in. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can kind of fill in more solid and then brush them out. This one comes with a little kind of coarser spoolie brush, so you can get more of a feather stroked look. So if I was filling in, I'd kind of start through here and just add my little hair strokes in. And then same thing on the top. So I'm following the direction that the hair naturally grows. So for most of us, it grows up here and then kind of over on the side. So you can accentuate, you know, the peak of your arch, kind of brush those hairs down so you can see better. And then kind of fill in the ends as well. So I get a little sparse through the underside here. So if I was going to add in more hair strokes, that's how I would do it. So then you can create a little bit more drama if you want, or fill in any gaps that you might have. Powder is another way to fill in your brows. So the little bitty brow kits I have here from Jane Iredale actually have a powder and a wax. So the wax is really used when you have an area that has no hair, because the powder is only going to stick to an area with hair. So I'm sure some of you have noticed before, you try to fill in your brows with powder, they look great, and then by the end of the day, they're gone. And that's because they need something to stick to the skin. So you can lay the wax down first, and then you get a much heavier, more dense application of the powder that's going to stay all day. So if I were doing that, I would put the wax on first, and this comes with a little angled brush. So I'm just taking some of this kind of clear wax, and I would apply it kind of along the shape of the brow. And if I didn't have a lot of hair, like up through the top and the arch. So right now I'm just kind of laying a clear gel down. So normally you wouldn't see it. And then I'm going to take my powder, and you don't even have to brush it through. You can literally stipple and kind of lay the powder on. So if I'm just kind of tapping it in and then kind of brush it up. Try to get a little better angle for you guys. You can see how much more dramatic you can get that powder on when you use the wax. And if you have plenty of hair, you know, you can just do the powder and not use the wax. But it does give a lot more staying power for that powder. So then you can create, you know, a little bit more drama. Fill in any of those spaces. So you can, they still look pretty symmetrical, one with pencil, one with powder. So it's almost whatever you feel most comfortable with. And then I would brush the brow gel over. So let's go ahead and do that on the other side. So again, I'm going to kind of scrape the excess back in the tube. So I really don't want a lot on the brush. You can see here. And then I'm just going to brush against my hair and then lay it up down. So again, this is kind of my more naturally feathered side. So if you like that look, you can always brush these up and it'll help it stay, you know, throughout the day. So then you can create, you know, a softer, more feathered look in the front. So pretty easy, says the person who's been doing brows for 15 years. But don't be afraid to try. I would just say go slowly, do a little bit at a time. And especially if you're not used to shaping your own brows, I would kind of draw them out with a pencil or a powder first. That way you can make sure you like the shape and it gives you a guideline. So basically anything that's not filled in is fair game to tweeze. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have questions or comments, please comment below the video and I can answer those in the next video, or I'll try to comment back over Facebook or Instagram, however you guys are watching this. And next tip we're going to go over is home dermaplane. So I know you're all excited for that. So if you need anything else, please give us a call. The number for our Rancho Santa Margarita office is 949-709-4141. And I hope you're all doing great. I'll see you soon. Bye.